Hey, soul survivors, this might be a trigger video for you. So if you're not comfortable looking within at yourself and your healing process, you are free to watch a different video. However, if you are comfortable to explore yourself a little bit more, and also the people around you. So I had just finished watching a video about, the people that tell you the truth. Those aren't the assholes in your life. The people that let you destroy yourself, where they just keep telling you everything's okay or I get it. Yeah, that's fine. Be you. The people that give us like good advice when we're hurting, or struggling with possibly alcoholism or whatever it is that we're struggling with, that they'll tell us the cold hard truth. And sometimes the truth hurts. So I wanted to, without saying names, kind of bring some things up that I see here in my channel. And I'm doing this to be a good friend. And also to see how in our healing process that we get a lot of good advice. I didn't take the good advice. I didn't listen to the friends that were really caring about me. I wanted to do it my way. I didn't want to look at some of the things that I was either lacking or doing wrong or could have done better. And I see the good advice on how to back off when we're in these trauma bonds. Sometimes we get super clingy or too excited, and we're blowing people's phones up and we're over the top, which will push people away. You have to give them time to come to you, to invest in you. And everybody's not on the same time schedule. This can be difficult for me at times. What is respectful, what is disrespectful in text messages. And, you can relate it to the narcissist. The narcissist doesn't get back with you, but also people who are going through a trauma or being overwhelmed, that are they trying to hurt us? So, I have people who don't quite see how their actions represent themselves. So, I have a viewer who says they're super empathic, but I get snide remarks. They tell me, that they would never have me as a life coach, which is fine. That's out of anger, but they still come to the channel, and it gets confusing on how am I supposed to take that? You say you're super empathic, but then there's some entitlement from different viewers that I see, that we have to realize people, you know, uh, don't owe us. We have to allow them to give freely. And if they're not willing to give freely, maybe they can't. Or if they, uh, I see entitlement and people getting angry about it. And, um, our triggers come from our childhood or our trauma. And we have to be careful of representing our true self or labeling ourselves correctly. That, we say we're a kind person, but are we taking our anger out on the right person? We say that, we understand, we, like, as far as my dad, he would be kind and give me money when I needed it, not always, but for the most part. And he had an attitude, which was, oh my gosh, so kind, that he only gives if he knows he can, like, go without it. So he gives freely, and it's up to me to pay him back. And I should love him enough to do that. He didn't say that, but it's kind of like a respect is built that way. And, we should have friends who respect us enough to just do it automatically. And we can gently remind them things like that. But, um, I've had friends who, I save the day for them, but then when I ask for my own money back, um, you know, they come up with all those excuses on what their needs are, that in a sense they're entitled to my money and they don't care what happens to me. I actually lost a house because of being kind. That we have to realize that there are people out there that don't follow through on promises. We also have to realize that sometimes things come up that makes it, somebody had an accident, lost their job, whatever, and they couldn't pay you back. We have to be careful what we give, and we have to understand that relationships take time to build. And when we're in a triggered state, sometimes we don't see certain things that we're doing. Are we being dismissive to our friends? Are we starting to be entitled because we're hurting, that we need our friends' time all the time? And is that what they signed up for? They might have just signed up to have a coffee friend once a month. And we have to know who our people are and the depth of those relationships. Every relationship is different, and the more you invest, but it's got to be the balance where they invest back. Otherwise, you push people away or you become taken for granted. I see people breaking boundaries, misinterpreting certain things. And it's just trauma-based. So I can deal with what's going on, but there's times that we need to look at some of the things that we are doing, because if we're trying to build future relationships, is our trauma harming those relationships? Are we breaking boundaries? Are we feeling entitled? Are we compromising? Are we I have some that don't answer questions because sometimes it's either too hard or maybe it's too much of a hassle, that we start taking on narcissistic tendencies. And with the brain fog, a trauma bond and CPTSD, PTSD can really change your brain. It can change your memories. And since our brains are wired to go negative, a lot of times that's where we go. That I see people ready to dismiss a friend. Some may be warranted, some may not. But we got to get our brain health back to where we're not throwing temper tantrums or misinterpreting. And I guess the point of this is every day we need to grow. Do our best to just get that one smidge better on who we are. And if we feel we're an empathetic person, we really got to start thinking, how are my words or my actions or my facial expressions, how are they going to affect somebody? Do we have to necessarily say what we're going to say? Is it trauma-based or is it kind? And it gets tricky sometimes because do you give advice when it's not asked for? And, it's kind of like if somebody's about to get hit by a car, do you have to go, excuse me, would you like to know kind of what's going on? Or do we offer that in severe instances? So relationships go bad because of childhood traumas, because we will react in certain ways. And the narcissist, though, like there's somebody who is at fault, somebody who doesn't get it. Sometimes people just drift apart, and that's okay. You guys didn't grow together. You didn't invest in each other. You had different interests. But the damage that is done, whether it's reactive, just like if we got in a fist fight, you might be punching me first, but then if I react to survive, we both damaged each other worse than what we were. So we have to learn to pick our fights. Which battle do we need to fight? Sometimes walking away leaves us not damaged. So just like in that instance, let's say somebody punched me. I can punch back. I can do that reactive abuse, beat the crap out of him, but she going to get at least another swing in or pop my tires later or whatever they're going to do. Do we walk away? And, some people with their pride might want to stay and fight. And, is it important to impress somebody or to protect ourselves or not to make the situation worse? We all have different views on how we look at it, but when we say that we're a kind person and sometimes we let out an unkind thing, people tend to look at that one little thing. And I'm not going to do that, but those are like red flags. So one or two, you can take sometimes with a grain of salt, ask them what's going on with them. Are they having a bad day? Let them know your boundaries. I don't want to be talked to that way. But if it's a pattern that continues and there is no compromise, so we have to look at our patterns too. How are we dealing with this trauma? Are we being kind to the people who are helping us? Are we feeling entitled that we expect certain things? And, is there leeway? Are we being a good friend as well? Or are we just expecting certain things? So I know this is trauma-based responses, but I think it's important. It took me a while to understand the things that I had to change and the things that, I could have done better. I had great friends, and you get into that isolation and then the embarrassment of, I had my wedding canceled. So some of it was too much trauma to go to a wedding of family members. And so it changes how people look at you. Like, you're not going to show up. You're just not going to show up. And people stop asking you to show up when you don't show up. So it's this vicious cycle of trying to scramble out of this hole that we're in. But we need to practice mindfulness, and nobody is perfect. We all have narcissistic tendencies, but when we limit how many we utilize for survival and we utilize boundaries instead of manipulation. I gotta fly. It's summertime coming up. So self-reflection, it's almost like, each interaction we have with people, first impressions. I could tell you right now, I'm a great singer. I'm a great singer, got sore throat, and I'll sing for you. And you're like, oh, you are so not a good singer, which I'm not. But if I was, sometimes people are like, no, I heard her. She sucks. And so that is their interpretation. So I have to take this call. Lots of love to you guys. We'll talk more soon. Have a good day.